When you see photos of people riding horses on the beach, or if you are lucky enough to witness it firsthand, everything appears to be so perfect that nothing could ever ruin that moment of beauty. That sense has to be much more embedded in you when you ride this path practically daily. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Our story today is a beautiful narrative of unselfish love and never giving up on the people you care about. But it's also a tale of how things can go wrong very quickly. Nicole Graham's whole life had revolved on taking care of horses. She had 10 horses of her own at this point, and she loved and knew each one very well. However, if forced to choose one, she would most likely choose her horse, Astro. They shared a unique link between them that would eventually prove to be unbreakable. In addition to having a great affection for these creatures in her personal life, Nicole's whole company was dedicated to their upkeep. She spent her entire life taking care of horses and running her own equine dental practice. She would never ever turn away a horse in need, and it would be impossible if it was one of her own horses, which she loved so much. Paris, Nicole's little daughter, has been trained to love and appreciate animals with the same fervor as her own. They took great care of their possessions and also made sure to provide them with lots of exercise. Every day, Nicole would go horseback riding with her mother, Paris, most of the time taking out one of the smaller horses. One of the greatest benefits of being close to the ocean in Geelong, Australia, was that the mother and daughter team could spend most of their days riding down the beach. Nicole had been riding horses on that road for 20 years, and throughout that period, she had never experienced any problems or drama with horses getting hurt or coming across unforeseen risks. However, all of that was about to alter. Astro, an 18-year-old horse, weighed half a ton, or around 1,100 pounds or 500 kilograms when Nicole rode it. That is a really big animal. Riding a much smaller horse, Paris lagged slightly behind her mother. The majority of riders will constantly be alert for potential dangers, like as falling branches on a well-traveled road, holes made by animals, or anything that might hurt them or their horses. The issue was that there was no forewarning of impending issues. The sand appeared just as it has always. They appeared to be on solid ground, with miles of smooth terrain in front of them. It was shocking when Nicole and Astro suddenly fell into what could only be described as a mud pit, as they were simply riding down the beach because they didn't seem to have anything to worry about. Astro was up to his neck in muck in a matter of seconds after it hit him. When Nicole and her horse also fell in the same dense, muddy mess, she didn't even have time to alert Paris. Nicole got out of the muck with a lot of perseverance and, most likely, motherly fortitude. She could feel the muck sucking her back in every time she tried to move, but she wanted to get to her little child and bring her to safety. Nicole struggled for a while before crawling to Paris and extracting the tiny child. Together, they then set Paris's horse, which was considerably smaller than Astro, free. After the horse was examined, it became evident that he was unharmed and that Paris could still ride him. The little girl now had a major assignment. She had to go back into their car and make an assistance call. Nicole believed she would be secure and able to find her way because, fortunately, it was a familiar neighborhood. Nicole, though, could never let Astro go on his own. The mud would draw him under if he got too exhausted and lowered his head, ensuring that he would drown. Paris had to rush, too. There was a ticking clock against them. It was low tide when they found themselves on the coast. Where Astro stood on the beach, the tide was about to change and come in. He would undoubtedly drown when the tide fully engulfed him. Nicole was not going to abandon her horse, therefore this also put her in serious risk. She first attempted to free him and drag him to safety, but she was unable to do so due to the size of the monster. He was buried more and deeper in the muck with every movement he made, no matter how small. For a great deal of us, childhood television series and films portrayed quicksand as a far more serious issue than it actually was. Although most individuals won't experience it in their lives, it is genuine. But what we often forget is that, under some situations, ordinary mud may behave similarly, which was the situation Nicole and Astro were in. She came to the conclusion that she was powerless to solve the problem on her own. She had to reassure him and make sure he remained still so as not to exacerbate the situation by resisting. Until aid arrived, she also needed to assist him in maintaining his composure. She decided to go back down into the mud beside him, knowing full well that he might pull them both down if he panicked and moved toward her side. But it was a risk she had to take, and she calmed him down a little by holding his head up and talking to him softly, though she must have felt a deep despair at being helpless beyond hope that her daughter had returned and called for assistance. Her answer would come soon after. First responders and a vet team appeared out of nowhere, ready to help free the massive horse. But this was not a situation they had encountered before. Every time they tried to approach Nicole and Astro, they were sucked into the mud, making the 3-hour ordeal feel much longer for everyone involved. The firefighters threw their fire hose to Nicole, who tied it securely around Astro's body. Then they attempted to pull the horse free, but it was too heavy for them all combined, and it was making him even more frightened. His breathing had grown difficult, and his eyes were revealing more white. Nicole and the veterinary team were aware that Astro was growing agitated. Rather than try to liberate the horse again, they decided to sedate him first. This would make Nicole's task even tougher, since she would need to make sure that in his medicated state, he didn't fall under the mud. She was ready for the task, though. Vet Stacy Sullivan climbed into the mud with them, getting close enough to give Astro the medication that would hopefully calm him down until they could come up with a plan to get him to safety. This helped him relax, but he wouldn't know when to try and move forward, and he wouldn't struggle and fall deeper either. They had tried everything. Even a helicopter was ready to help in any way it could, but people were losing hope. The tide was approaching, and they had only a few minutes before Nicole and Astro would begin to be submerged in water. The sea was drawing near enough that she could already feel the spray. Still, she knew that if she left, the unconscious Astro would quickly lose consciousness, and she was determined not to allow that happen. The situation was hopeless, but then an amazing event occurred. A farmer had been seeing the scene unfold, and he was getting closer now. He thought of a solution. They could use his tractor, which was designed to operate in muddy circumstances and should have enough strength to gain a firm grasp and pull Astro free. They were out of time and had nothing left to lose. They fastened Astro to the tractor and got to work pulling. The weary horse began to emerge from the muck, inch by inch. It was doing the trick. When he was at last let free, cheers broke out. Astro hit firm ground, exhausted and yet feeling the effects of the sedative. Nicole was standing behind him, exhausted too. After the veterinary team examined him, they found no injuries. It seems miraculous that the horse was unharmed because of his owner's affection and devotion. We appreciate your attendance today. Please return for more motivational tales. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.